Greetings and salutations. It's David Duford here at davidduford.com. We're helping insurance agents like you become top producing insurance professionals. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out this role-playing training call that I'm doing with a few of my agents who've decided that learning the script, mastering the script, if you will, is paramount to their success. So a special thank you goes out to all you guys who are doing this live and want to improve your craft. So on these role-playing calls, that's really the topic today. The concept is that we take the scripting of what I teach in all my final expense videos and put it into somewhat of a synthetic related type of environment that you would find face-to-face with the client, but without the risk of loss or of money or time or losing a deal because you said something wrong. But you get the same kind of element of being on your feet, thinking on your feet, going through a script, going through a pre-qualification routine to better improve yourself. So all of this, again, is designed with the idea in mind that you will better fine-tune what you do in order to make sales, and you might even address some things you could possibly improve on. Now, today's training specifically is going to revolve around pre-qualifying. So pre-qualifying and fact-finding is the second of 4 stages that I teach final expense agents. Really all my sales training for all insurance sales marketing systems I have work with this sales system I've created. And to me, this is the most important part of the sales call. Your goal should be to figure out if your client is a qualified prospect or an unqualified suspect. What's the difference? A qualified prospect has high odds of buying, and somebody who is an unqualified suspect has a very low odds of buying. Your goal, no matter what it is you're selling, should be to spend more time with qualified prospects and less time with unqualified prospects. So what we attempt to do is to learn how to determine this really within the first 10 to 15 minutes of the sales call. That's where we can really figure out if it's worth our time to spend with them or if ending the sales call is more appropriate. So let's get started with some scripting. I'm going to call on some of you guys to help me out to frame this the right way. Imagine you've done your rapport building. You've introduced yourself. They know who you are, why you're there with them, as Scott said the other day. And now you're transitioning to figuring out why you're there. So I'm just going to call on some people I haven't before. Let me try John. Hey, John's iPad, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hold on. Let me turn my speakers up. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Who is this? John?
John Dean, Wichita.
Oh, hey, John. Hey, you want to do this with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, excellent. So go ahead. I'll play prospect. You play agent. Kind of just start to take me through the beginnings of the pre-qualification section as well as you know it.
Okay, so Dave, you've answered my post on Facebook, and what's one of the reasons that you answered my post? Typically, when I sit down with people, they have 3 reasons that they answer my post, and one of the reasons is someone close to them just passed away, and they're seeing what the family is going to. 2, they might have coverage, but they don't think it's enough. And then the third one that I see mostly is they don't have any coverage and they don't want the debt to fall on the family. Which one of these, Dave, do you think that you fall in?
Reason 2.
Yeah. Reason 2. I'm sorry. Okay, reason 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. That's right.
So Dave, tell me, what kind of coverage do you have now then?
Good. So I've got this policy. I've had it for about a year. When my father died 2 years ago, I thought it was important to get something, and I finally got it about a year ago. So I've got a small little policy.
When you say small, I mean, what is the amount?
I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was about enough to cover burial, maybe 10,000. Okay. I don't know for sure.
Well, I assume you have the policy here at home.
Trying to think which pile of crap that I put it under.
Well, why don't we take a few minutes and find that, and let's just take a look at it.
Okay.
Some people I sit down with, they might not even need my help. But if you got a second, let's grab that policy. Let's make sure that you do need my
help. Here it is.
All right. So Dave, as I'm looking through this, did someone come by and talk to you about this policy, or did you purchase this over the phone?
You know, I did it face to face. I had an agent. His name was Dave. He came by and he sold me this plan.
Is he a big? He's probably a big dork over in Tennessee.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. That's the guy.
Yeah, I know that guy. So when that day does come for you, what amount are you looking for?
So I don't know. I'm not sure really about the numbers. You know, I just don't want my daughter to pay for my burial, and okay. I'd like to leave a little money behind. You know, how much that is, I just guess it depends on what it costs. Can you tell me that?
Sure. So let me ask you this. So you say the most important thing to you is making sure that your daughter doesn't have to come out of pocket anything, and making sure that she's taken care of. Is there a set amount that you would like to see her have when that day does come for you, after she's paid for your funeral and everything?
I think if she had an extra 10 after the funeral, that would be good.
Okay. Let's see here. And you bought this policy a year ago. Let me ask you this. If there was a way to make sure that your daughter had that $10,000 and make sure that your funeral was covered, and we could put something in place today, the big thing that I tell my clients is something like this is you do have to purchase with your health, and you only fund it with your money. So as far as health goes, Dave, have you experienced anything critical like cancer, heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes with insulin, anything along those lines as far as on that?
No, based on what you're asking me, nothing at all.
Okay. And then Dave, it looks like that on this policy, it looks like they're pulling it from your looks like your checking account. Typically that is how they have to do these now. I haven't ran into a carrier that does not allow, unless you go like a quarterly or a yearly. Just wanted to make sure that was okay as well.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And so with this policy and just kind of looking at this, it almost looks that I could almost combine and get you exactly what you want, lower your $10,000 amount monthly premium, and then as well as add that extra $10,000 on there. If we were to combine this into a total $20,000, that way your funeral is taken care of and your daughter's going to be taken care of as well as that. Typically, right now you're, in the range of, anywhere from, $150 to $200. Is that kind of a monthly budget that you have in mind?
Well, it's kind of high. I'm, paying $80 a month now.
Okay.
I was hoping not to spend more than, it makes sense. Double that,
Double that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I want to get more coverage, I was hoping to stay well under it, but I think I could double that. It'd be all right. Maybe around the 150 range would be good.
The 150 range. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm looking at, I'm going back through kind of some underwriting, and you're in good health. Who I'm looking at is Prosperity Life.
Let me stop you there. This gets into the next section, but let's stop here. And then can I go through? Go ahead.
I said, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, let me go through. I've got a bunch of notes here. Mostly good, some constructive criticism, but you did really well. So let's go cycle right back to the beginning. The 3 reasons questions, guys. So if you've never heard this, the 3 reasons question gives you specific guidance on which situation the client is in. And it allows you to determine if they have zero coverage, if they have some, but want to add more or possibly get a better price, or they just want to leave a legacy behind. You can ask this question in substitute to the main question that I like the most, which you didn't say, but it's not a big deal if you ask this question. It's interchangeable. I like asking, what were your thoughts and concerns when you sent back this card? Or what were your thoughts and concerns when you requested the information? If it was on Facebook. I like to hear them kind of explain themselves, so I can kind of get a better gauge on what their emotional reasons were or what was going through their head. And then usually it comes out in that question, okay, my father died, I'm concerned, I don't know if I've got enough coverage, but you can learn in their own words what their underlying concern is. But sometimes you'll get people who will answer that, and what do they say? They say, well, I was just curious, right? I was just curious to see what this is about, a non-answer. That doesn't mean anything. You've got to dig deeper. And a great pivot from there is what you went through here, John, which is that 3-question routine, because it forces them to get specific. Okay, which situation are you in? And it progresses the call forward, moves the ball downfield. So good job there. You did a great job assuming I had existing coverage. Well, you really didn't, I guess. Well, I said reason 2. I think what you said do you remember what you said what you say when you say reason 2?
You have coverage, but you want to add to it. You don't think it's enough.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Correct. Okay. So, that was my mistake. I was trying to manufacture a ploy in there but you didn't fall for it, which you shouldn't have anyway, because it was a specific answer. So it was my misunderstanding. So what I'm going with is that after I asked it and I said reason 2, you made the assumptive statement of, you said, I think, who do you have your existing life insurance with? Or how much do you have with your existing life insurance? Something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah. So again, we want to use, and that's the right language pattern to use. We want to use a presumptive language pattern. Who do you have your existing life insurance with? At any point where you're asking questions, sometimes you may not say the 3 reasons, and you want to ask anyway. Let's say I just ask, what were your thoughts, concerns were when you sent this card back, and they give me some long, detailed answer. But I don't have any information on if they have a policy or not. I presume they do, and I allow them to correct me if I'm wrong. So therefore, I use the same verbiage there in that case, which is who do you have your existing life insurance with? Like, okay, you told me something, because it sounds like, okay, did I miss something? And then the nice thing is that to me, it's a little less prying and as not as invasive when you say, you do a presumptive statement, whereas it's who do you got your coverage with? What's the name? A little bit kind of direct. It's not that it's wrong to do that. I just like who is it with again? And people will tell you if they've got it or if they don't, because they'll say, oh, I don't have any coverage, and then we're kind of off the races there. Review. So in this role play, John, I had coverage. John started asking questions about how much coverage I've got. I gave non-specific answers. And you said something, John. Do you remember what you said about, this is what I liked. You said, yeah, go grab your policy, kind of an assumptive or just really a command. You told me to go get it. Go grab your policy, we'll check it out. Then this next line is really good. I may not be able to help you. You may have a great plan, but it's worth your time to make sure of it. That's very disarming. Our prospects don't expect us to not act like salespeople. They expect us to say our product's the best. There's nothing quite like it. Everything else is inferior. But what they don't expect is a bit of transparency and potentially, what's the word I'm looking for? not getting the sale, right? If you expose yourself, right, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. Hey, my deal may not be best for you. That builds trust and credibility in the client. It elevates you from salesperson to advisor. So I highly recommend inserting language like that, not just here, but at different points in the conversation. If you were my mother, I would recommend this plan, and here's why. If I were your son and you're my mom, like stuff like that, where you make a recommendation, that's better than just saying which one works best, because now you're elevating yourself, your status higher. So, and saying things that people don't expect. So that was good. You also, in the review process, so let's go into the review a little bit here. So whenever you're reviewing policies, first of all, ask for it directly, just like you did. When you get the policy, you need to investigate what coverage they have, how much they're paying for their premium, and really just trying to gather some facts around it. So you asked for the policy. I was hoping you would make up an insurance company we could use, but that's fine. What you need to continue to do is, as you're looking through the policy, what I want you to do, if you can visualize this with your clients, is get next to them, sit next to them, or side by side at the dinner table, and show them each line of your policy and what it does. So I would say, okay, Mr. Jones, so you've got a policy through Lincoln Heritage. If you'll see here, this is what we call a modified plan. And it says that the coverage is $10,000 and you're paying $90 a month. You see all that, right? Yeah. Okay, great. So what's the catch? Well, let me turn this page over. Do you see here on the cash value tables, or actually the coverage value tables, see where it says 110% of premium? Why doesn't it say 10,000 like it does in years 3? Have you ever asked yourself that? Well, here's why. Because if you die within those first 2 years on these plans, you only get back the money that you paid in plus 10%. So they say you got a $10,000 plan, but you really don't until this next year passes, right, Mr. DeFord? Yeah. So if you kick the bucket for some reason, if something unexpected happens, and that's how death is, right? Nobody ever expects it. And you die before the 2 years up, you're out of luck, right? So we do all this because even if that's not the case, even let's say they've got a plan and it's perfectly fine, the fact that you sat there and looked through it with them and you pointed out things that they probably never saw or probably never considered, again, elevates your expertise. It elevates your status in the mind of the prospect. And it's vital that we do this. Even, like I said, if everything's fine, I'll tell them that. Another example, hey, you've got a really good plan considering what situation you're in. I don't know if there's much I can do to help. If that's the case, that's what you would say. Even if it is not a bad, let's say it is a bad plan. This kind of brings up another thing. Don't insult them, right? Don't say, this is the worst plan I've ever seen in my life. These people suck. Don't go down that road of defaming your competition, because it lowers your status. Congratulate them on making a decision, right? Because most people procrastinate about buying life insurance, right? They put it off to the very end. We should congratulate people who are thoughtful and take time to buy insurance well in advance of actually needing it. And the truth is that's the truth. And the great thing is those prospects are our best ones to sell. The best person to sell a policy to is the one that already has coverage, right? They're already paying the premium. They walk the talk, right? So we want to show express our enthusiasm that, hey, you're a responsible person. You're unlike the most people that I see, and mean it. So again, elevates your status, but don't defame the company. Let them draw their own conclusions. That's the other thing. I don't tell them that, this 2-year waiting period policy with so-and-so company is complete garbage. I asked them, what do you think about not having coverage for next year? How would you feel if your spouse passed away and didn't have coverage? Would you be angry? Would you be upset? And I allow them to facilitate whatever language they want. I want to hear in their own words, kind of like this whole section. Okay, how do you feel? I want to know what you think. I want to know what words you use, because the words that you use are probably hot button words that I can replicate in my mind and feed back to the person, because that's going to show me a better connection to the person, right? if I use their same language pattern. But the only way I can get it is if I facilitate the questions in the right way.
Dave,
So, yeah.
do you? I always ask if they purchased it with somebody, and if they purchased it in front of somebody, or if they purchased it over the phone. Is that?
Yeah. Great question. Awesome. Okay, so this is especially useful if the client does not grab. Let me explain how I think it's useful. If the client doesn't grab their policy initially, you still want to fact find and figure out what they have, because if you don't fact find that policy, how can you make a stake? How can you gain an edge in persuading somebody to buy from you, right? If you know nothing about what they have, you're on weak footing, right? You don't have the upper ground. So we do want to ask specific questions, especially if we can't get more information. So I like to ask exactly what you said, John, which is, so let's say they say, no, I don't know where it is. It's buried in the hoard pile somewhere. I say, oh, that's cool. No problem. Let me ask you a few questions about it. Maybe you can help me out. About how much coverage you think you have? You did that. That was good. Did you buy it over the phone, or did you get it through, did you buy it through the phone or mail, or did you have an agent come here and sell it to you? The reason I ask that is it's almost guaranteed if they buy it over the phone, it's overpriced. It's got a 2-year wait because it's Colonial Penn. It's cancels at 80 because it's a 5-year increasing term policy from AARP, or it's an overpriced telesales type of policy, like Pioneer Life is an example. Lincoln does a little over the phone, Senior Life too. But it gives me more reason why to come back to these clients and to source a deal or source their policy, right? I'll ask them, do you know if it covers you 100% from the first day, or do you have to wait 2 or 3 years before you cover it? I ask this because it gets them, again, concerned that maybe I don't know everything. Maybe it's a good idea that I actually get up, walk to the back, and pull out the policy as opposed to trying to resist, because this agent's asking pointed, thoughtful questions. And if you don't know the answer as the prospect, that's a risk. And they'll, if they've got a brain, will understand that intuitively. So so cut back on script here, or back on the kind of going through the notes here. I noticed I asked something like, you asked me, how much coverage do you think you need to have to be satisfied? I was like, well, I don't really know. Why don't you tell me what it costs? And what was your response to that?
Crud, I can't remember now.
Nothing. Your response was, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And that was it. You went right back to the routine.
Yeah.
Again, I like throwing
I try to stay off of costs as much as I can until I get down.
Yes. Yes. We want to talk specific prices in the end of the sales call. Why? Because an early price reveal destroys value. Okay. It destroys the opportunity to build value. Okay. And we use the first 3/4 of our presentation to build value, to sell ourselves, to sell the company, to sell the product, to differentiate the product, so people know our unique selling proposition. And then once we've established on firm footing where we stand and why it's superior, then we show prices and then ask for the deal. If we do that at any point earlier, then we won't run the risk of losing the deal, because people presume, oh, that's a lot of money. I can't afford that. That seems like kind of high. Well, again, if you say it's $50 for $10,000, but you haven't explained it's term life or whole life insurance, again, it may just sound bad, but you're losing ground when they start prejudging, right? So we don't want them to make a decision until they've got all the information. And the truth is, we really can't give them a price. If they push on the price, I'll say, look, I don't really know. I've got to ask you health questions. I got to see what you want to accomplish. Trust me, I'm going to be forthright in telling you exactly what this is going to cost. But it's based off of more information I need to collect. And then if you like it, great. If not, you can kick me out. Does that sound good? So I'll do that if they persist in trying to progress getting a price from me.
I always like saying, well, I don't know if this is something that you've heard, but I was with a guy that every time they asked him about a price question, he would basically say, Well, it's something that you do have to buy with your health, and you fund it with your money. So and then kind of go from there and ask them health questions. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I noticed you said that. That was interesting. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I think it's kind of an answer that just answers it, but doesn't matter. It just allows you more room to continue, because that's the goal with rebuttaling the price objection early, is just acknowledge and continue. You know, don't fall for the trap. That's the key thing. Okay, a couple other things. You establish need very well. Okay, so you ask the question, so beyond covering, like, how much money do you think would be appropriate, would make you happy to leave behind to your daughter? So you're providing like objective structure to a purchase decision. You know, so I said, you know, 10,000 above and beyond my funeral costs are good. So now with this information, when you go to the end of the sales call and present the actual prices, you can say, my recommendation to you is to pick either the 15 or the 20, because both of those are going to leave at least $5,000, if not $10,000 behind, because your average burial is $7,000 to $10,000. Which one of these would you select? So again, we develop a strong reason why, objectively based off of what the client values, which is obviously tied to some emotional reason, to the obligation to, you know, buy life insurance because they love someone. But it just makes a lot more sense, and it gets a lot more people on board if you can connect what they want with your offer. One big problem, John.
Let's hear it.
And this is important. Everybody newer messes this up, but it's very important that we get this right. You ask me, how did you ask me the health questions?
If you have any, well, I didn't want to get, I don't know how long you wanted me to go.
Okay.
But I asked you more of if you have any critical illnesses like this and this and this and this.
Right. So, but you didn't ask me, you didn't ask all of the questions, right? That could possibly be a problem. Like, the one thing you didn't mention was COPD. And so
Right.
what I was thinking as a client, I'm thinking, okay, you know, it's health is an issue, and I don't have the issues he mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say no, because it's true, right? Maybe it's a lie by omission, but it's our responsibility as salespeople to spell out exactly, word for word, what the health qualifications are. Leave no stone unturned. Some of our prospects lie and try to get away with revealing as little as possible. Other prospects just don't think well enough until you specifically pull out the mental drawer in their head by asking a specific question. So the more that you can go, and you may have been shorting that for the scripting purposes, which is fine. But the more that you can do that, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. And I always get their meds up front too, as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Then that's fine. But it's a good lesson for the rest of us, of course, is
Sure.
just make sure that you always drill down to the questions. And then last thing, checking account question. I would almost make that as kind of a dismissal question, like, yeah, just like Lincoln, we do check drafts too. And then my final question for you is this. So I don't want to spend time like apologizing that we have to draft them.
Okay.
If they've done a draft, they'll do another one. You don't have to make it a deal. It wasn't necessarily wrong to say it. It's just, it doesn't help and it's unnecessary, but it's not like some critical error. Like, more importantly is asking the health question specifically.
Yeah.
And then the last question, you and I had this conversation the other day. You asked on the basis of premium, can you afford 150 to 200 a month? That's, again, that takes chutzpah, right? You know, if they ask for the big dollars, is huge. Now, if you don't feel comfortable, for some of you guys out there, I'm happy if you start at 80 to 100. But we ask the big premium. It's easier to go down in premium than up in premium when we're selling. Okay. We expect people to say no, but we want to go down sequentially. You know, if I said no to 150, then you would have said, fine, if I can qualify you for another program, can you afford 100 to 125 a month? And then worked on down, and I'll work down to 10 to 15 a month. I mean, I'll sell anything for what it's worth. You got any last questions on that before I call on somebody else here?
I don't think so.
Okay. Hey, thanks for participating, John. That was good.
Yep.
Hey, Scott, you had a question. What was it?
Yeah, basically, I was going to say, I get a list of the meds. Doesn't the list of the meds tell me the health problems?
Yes, but some medications have cross usage. Ropinirole, for example, is a restless leg medication, but also Parkinson's. And some companies, looking at the prescription guide, are going to blacklist that medication. Others will work with you depending on what the actual condition is. So,
All right. I was asked what the medicine is for.
yeah, why are you taking this medication?
Yeah.
And get specifics, but also don't be afraid to go on to Google. Like if I go right now to Google and I put in ropinirole, I think that's how it's spelled, I get a search right here. It says Requip, prescription needed, can treat Parkinson's disease and restless leg syndrome. So as you guys start to develop an understanding for these medications, most of you aren't getting started, right? We don't have backgrounds in pharmacology. This is all brand new. Consult Google. Google has the answer. If you're unclear, if they don't give you a good answer, see what they say about it. And always check your prescription guides against what meds they take, because it's a combination of can they answer the questions, no on the application, and do their prescriptions check out against the prescription check. So it's a 1-2 yin and yang thing.
Okay.
Anything else, Scott?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you, sir. All right. So let's call on somebody else who wants to play agent. Who's next? Tyler, you want to do this?
Oh, I don't know.
Hello? Are you there? I think I woke him up. Just pretend he's not there. Okay. Vostro, do you want to do this?
Sure.
Hear anything?
Yes.
Vostro.
Yes.
Hey, it's Dave.
Yes. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how you doing? You want to play prospect with me?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. So go ahead and I'll be prospect.
Oh, I was going to volunteer to be the prospect.
Say that again.
I'll volunteer to be the prospect.
Okay, for sure. So I'll model, how about we put it that way? I'll model the successful approach to, or at least the way that I teach it as best as I can. So, Mr. Jones, my question to begin with you is, what were your thoughts, concerns when you decided to fill out this card?
Well, I've got savings and some investments, but my mother passed away, and I just want something a little extra just to cover the funeral.
Okay. So when you say extra, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're looking for a life insurance policy and you want to make sure your funeral expenses are taken care of. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what are you doing right now for existing life insurance?
I've got a policy that I kept from work.
Okay. And how much is it again?
It's $50,000.
Okay. And do you know if it's designed to cancel at a later age, or is it permanent coverage?
It's from its whole life.
Whole life and cover. Okay. How much are you paying for it?
I've got it paid up.
Paid up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. Congratulations. It's nice to have people who have these plans from early on. You obviously took it a long time ago when you're younger, and you still got it. That's great. So
premiums were very, very, very low then. So
say that again. I'm sorry.
The premiums were very, very affordable then.
Yeah. Aren't they always when you're like,
yes, sir.
Right? So, question. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It may surprise you, Mr. Jones. You got 50 grand. You got savings and investments. Why would you want to buy a policy when one of those could do the job?
I want one specifically for the cremation, for the final expenses.
What's
just enough to cover the cremation.
Enough to cover the cremation.
Right.
So why do you want another policy? I'm just curious because, you know, you're unlike a lot of the people I see. You're obviously on top of things, right? You have insurance for years. A lot of people I see have nothing, so they clearly need it. So I'm curious, why do you feel like a separate policy is a good idea?
My mother died, 5 years ago, and she had not a sizable estate, but she had an estate, and it was really, really convenient. The funeral director gave us the price and all that was going to take and whatever, and then he just folded his hands and said, "How are you going to pay for that?" And I'm thinking, well, I can write a check, I can put it on a credit card, but she had a little burial policy, a $10,000 burial policy. I said, how about call this insurance company and I'll assign it to you. It was one that we could, and we did, and it was so smooth. He picked up his pen and picked up his phone, and then he picked up his pen and said, the difference is going to be the small amount, and you can pay that however you want to. Just a whole different attitude from the funeral director.
I see. So it was, your experience is based on firsthand knowledge of seeing what your mom went through. It sounds like it was way simpler than worrying about taking funds from the estate or something like that. So that's kind of your motivation?
Yes.
Okay. It's a good reason, just to take care of it and have something predefined set aside. So when you think cremation, how much do you think that you need in order to pay for the cremation bill? What amount in mind do you think would give you peace of mind?
I'm thinking 7,000.
7,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you know, I think that's a really good number too. I will tell you, you can do cremations less expensive. Okay. You can go to the $1,000 crematory. They just flip a button, put you into a Folgers can, right? But the thing is, there's no service involved. You probably want to have family over and at least do some sort of, you know, formal funeral. And the thing with cremation, because of how popular it's getting, the prices are going up. You know, you're 60 years old. You remember when you were 20 and gas was 20 cents a gallon and bread was 10 cents a loaf. Those have gone up clearly, and funeral prices are absolutely no different. So even though you can pay less for a cremation right now, it's really smart if you buy a little bit extra in order to accommodate for inflation. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So let me wrap up here and make sure I understand everything. So your main motivation here is to get a standalone cremation plan, ideally for $7,000, to take care of final expenses. That way, to give your survivors complete peace of mind, not having to go into the estate or have to borrow money or anything like that, just to keep their life as simple as possible in their time of grief when you pass away. Does that sound about right?
That's it. Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
Exactly.
So off script here, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to call on somebody else to play prospect. Vasser, do you have any questions about that?
No, clever. Very good.
Okay. Let me try to, so one of the things, and I'm going to put you back on mute. I appreciate you playing. Here's the thing. You know, it's interesting being a teacher, right? Because there are some people who can do things but can't explain it. A good teacher has to know how to do something, but then explain it and break it down. And sometimes I feel, and this is what's good about these training sessions, because there's things that I do that I've just did that I've realized I really don't like clarify or teach, but I think are really important. And so if you're watching the recording of this, or just to recall what the process I went through, what do I do every time they answer a question? They give me information. I feed it back to them. I seek clarification. I do not presume. I want to hear them say, yes, that is correct. Like the best sample of that is that last point. Yeah, summarize it with it and a little pushback. Yeah, I don't want to say pushback, just summarize it and get them to agree with me, right? Summarize and get consent. Again, we're in sales, the old-fashioned way, it's called the yes train. You get them to say yes a lot. The yes train's a little more presumptive. This is collaborative. This is open-ended. And again, I am trying to seek understanding from these people, right? You'll notice the last thing I said when I was there was, okay, let me make sure I'm on the same page with you. You want a cremation plan. You want $7,000 ideally to cover the cost of inflation. And you want this plan to eliminate the emotion and turmoil from your family members when you pass away. You want to make it as easy as possible. Does that sound right? Yes. I'm conceptually on the same page with them. This is powerful. And the thing is, you may already know that and hear it and argue, well, you already asked questions. But many times when you feed back a point of clarification, it strengthens the rapport. It strengthens the your status because you really understand. You've made it clear that you understand what the prospect wants, what their desires are, their fears, and what they want to accomplish. Okay. And you'll notice I did a little bit of that at each section. So what you're saying, Mr. Jones, is you just want enough to cover cremation, right? Yeah, what I hear you saying, exactly, Scott. If you can insert that, maybe change the language up from here to there, not sound completely scripted or canned, I should say. But if you are always seeking feedback to make sure that you understand things in a clear and concise manner, this is very powerful in this section especially. Okay, so let's see here. Thanks again, Vasro. Let me call on somebody else, somebody unsuspecting. I'm going to play agent again, and you guys play prospect, and I'll conclude the training after this, the next part of the pre-qualification. Hey, Joel, you want to play prospect?
Yeah, that's fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear great. Thank you. So, okay, Mr. Jones, so now I know kind of what you're looking for and what you want to accomplish. I'm going to ask you some health questions to get a better understanding of what policies you may be able to qualify for. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So first of all, what was your birthday again?
February.
So February 14th, what'd you say, 1930?
52.
1952. Okay, great. So that makes you're going to turn 68. So you're 67 today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got you before your birthday. That's good. That's when prices go up. Do you smoke, chew tobacco?
Yeah, I smoke.
Okay, so when you say smoke, do you smoke cigarettes, cigars, cigarellos, weed?
No, just cigarettes.
Cigarettes. Okay, perfect.
Been trying to use those vapor things, but I don't like them.
Yeah, no doubt. I hear they blow up in your face. It's not very safe. Okay, what was your height and weight again?
Around 270.
And your height?
5'10"-ish.
Okay, 5'10". So any kind of lung problems like COPD, emphysema, chronic bronchitis, anything like that?
Well, yeah, I have to use a breather at night when I sleep. What are those things called again?
A CPAP or a nebulizer?
Yeah, CPAP, that's it. I always forget that word.
Okay, but do you have COPD or a chronic lung problem?
Yeah, I guess they think the last time they said I had that, yeah.
Did they prescribe you an inhaler?
No, just doing the CPAP.
Okay, and when did they diagnose you with a lung problem? Do you remember how many years ago it was?
Oh, I'm going to say a couple years ago.
More than 2 or less than 2?
Probably, yeah, right around 2.
Over 2?
A little less.
A little less than 2? Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Yeah, I don't mean to drill you here with these questions, but
that's okay.
All these companies ask specific time lengths, and I just want to make sure I'm doing my job right. So I'm writing that down, less than 2 years. Any sort of diabetes? Any sort of diabetic neuropathy, complications of diabetes?
Yeah, my right leg hurts quite a bit. I have kind of an issue walking. So, yeah, I do have neuropathy.
Okay, and so do you take insulin or pills for diabetes?
I don't know. I take some pills. My wife gives them to me. Yeah, she keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Metformin sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, I forgot to ask you. So in your CPAP, or really at any time, do you use oxygen supplemental to help you breathe?
No.
Okay, great. Any sort of kidney problems, liver problems, like cirrhosis, hepatitis, dialysis, anything like that?
I don't really know. My wife, I don't know if they did anything, but my wife has all that information.
Okay. Could you go grab her?
Oh, yeah, I can go get her.
Yeah. Get her over here. So what did
All
she
right.
say? Did you say that you did have liver problems or kidney problems?
Yes, some kidney problems.
Okay. Do you take dialysis? Are you on dialysis?
No,
Okay.
not on dialysis.
When you say kidney problems, like, is just the function going down? Have they said you got kidney failure or anything like that?
Just function going down.
Okay.
Not failure yet.
Okay.
Someday.
Do you remember when that was originally diagnosed?
I'm going to say about the same time, 2 years ago, a little under 2 years ago.
Okay. So kidneys. Any cancer ever in your life?
No.
Any sort of heart problems? Let me go through a list. Let me
Okay.
know which of these you have. History of heart attacks, strokes, stents, bypasses, seizures, aneurysms, pacemakers, congestive heart failure.
No. None.
Are you prescribed nitroglycerin to put under the tongue for any reason?
No.
Okay, perfect. Any drug problems or drug abuse problems, alcohol abuse problems in the last 2 years?
No, don't really drink anymore and no drugs.
Any sort of lupus, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Lou Gehrig's disease, anything like that?
No, none of that.
And then any diagnosis of depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, dementia?
It's just tough to move. Can I be depressed about that? But no.
Yeah, but you're not like clinically depressed.
No, not today.
Okay, you're not today. So it's the normal, everyday kind of thing. Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. And then, oh yeah, I forgot to ask. Can you grab your medications for me so I can check them out real quick, please?
Yes, I can.
So this medication I've got here, it's called hydrochlorothiazide. What is that for?
David, I don't know. I mean, what do you want me to say?
Well, okay.
You tell me what it's for, David.
Yeah, okay. It's for blood pressure or fluid. So
Yes.
either way, ask that off script, but back on script now. Okay, so got all the medications down. So let me summarize. Here we go again. Let me summarize what I got here. You're 67, born on Valentine's Day, 52. You smoke cigarettes. You're 5'7", 5'10". It's been less than 2 years since they prescribed the CPAP, as well as diagnose you with some kind of chronic lung disease. And you're diabetic, and you may have some kidney issues kind of associated with that. Is that all accurate? Is there anything missing that would be considered serious?
No, that's pretty. You got it all.
Perfect. Okay. So 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
The first is how payment is taken care of. The old way of doing this business is, if you probably, your grandparents probably remember this. The insurance man will come by the house, collect a premium every month. Well, that's the old way of doing things. It's just not that way anymore. What the companies require now is that we set up an automatic recurring payment to come out on the day of your choice. You don't need to pay today, but we usually time it around whenever your Social Security comes in. So do you have a checking account, or do you use one of those like plastic Direct Express cards?
Oh, no, we have checking accounts.
Okay, perfect. Final question for you is how price works. So let me be completely clear. 9 out of 10 people that I see every single day are on a fixed income. They make 1 check a month, and they've got to survive off of that check. The bottom line is that if they buy something that's out of range in their price budget, if, let's say, 6 months from now, when the air conditioner's bills through the roof, where do you think they're going to drop their coverage? Or what do you think they're going to do? They're going to drop their coverage, right? Because they probably bit off more than they could chew. And that's a waste of your money, right? Why would you ever want to get a policy from me or anybody else that was too expensive, right? So I say all this because the best policy to have is the one that's easily affordable. That's the one that fits your budget. That's the one that you can keep. And that's the one long-term that pays off. The only one you need, right? So my question to you is this. If I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford somewhere between $80 and $100 a month?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Perfect. Okay. Budget. Okay. Do you have any questions for me, Joel?
No,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, thank you for playing Prospect. I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute, and then let me walk through kind of what I did here and really try to give some perspective here. If you have questions unmute yourself or just post in the chat at any time here. I'm going to probably wrap it up in the next 10 minutes or so. So we're going to done right at 10. Okay, so you notice the health questions. Did you notice how detailed I was? I was almost prying, right? You know, I was almost a little bit, I don't want to say pushy, but I was insistent. I was insistent on getting specific answers, right? Do not leave any stone unturned. You want to know with as much specificity as possible if a client fits the certain health parameters or not, well in advance of you actually asking for money or presenting product. So I spent a lot of time being descriptive here. I have some feelings on what this does for you. If you can, when you display your knowledge of a host of different conditions, and you're specific in how you want the questions asked, it makes you more of an authority figure. Some people say, well, you got to ask all these questions. It's kind of annoying and frustrating. No, I think it makes you look like you know what you're talking about better. So the fact that you can just rattle off all these conditions, even if it's on the page in front of you, and then pronounce medications correctly, tell them what it's for, give them feedback on it, like that's going, again, to increase the perception of your expertise. Plus, it just better qualifies them, right? You run a lower risk of getting a rate up or a modified offer on your policies. So you also want to ask, again, a perfect example of that is Joel said, I smoke. And I said, when you say you smoke, do you smoke cigarettes, cigarillo, cigars, chew, or do you smoke weed? I want to be specific as possible, okay? So those questions where it's like, do you have a heart problem? Yeah. Well, that could just be blood pressure. It could also be congestive heart failure. And the outcomes of the underwriting are dramatically different. So it pays to be specific. Okay, the last two questions here, I asked about checking or billing and then budget, right? So with the checking account, the scripting I use now is just what I did. I tell them that it's you probably remember the agent came by the house every month, or your grandparents did. I like to do the contrast of the old versus the new, and that it's not out of my decision-making power to do it any other way, right? So I eliminate responsibility. I'm just a double messenger, don't kill me. So what I mean by that is I say, that was the old way to do it. The new way that the companies require, again, the companies require this. I'm just telling you what you're going to get. The new way the companies require is to set up an automatic payment out of your account, whether it's a checking account or direct express card, on the date of your choice. And we try to time it to the day that you get your check. So I say that as much because I want you guys to be billing Social Security deposit billing as much as possible. It makes a tremendous difference in persistency. So always fight to get that set up on their deposit date schedule. Worst case scenario, set it a day out if they're a little tepid about it. I'm flexible on that if it means getting the deal. But with Direct Express, you have to do it on deposit dates. There's no question, which is good. They force you to. And then I asked a presumptive close question, which is, do you have a bank account or do you have one of those classic Direct Express cards? And they just tell me, and the assumption is because how I framed that, they know they're going to get bank drafted without being as blunt as I could be. And it admonishes responsibility, and it makes the contrast between the old ways and the new ways. And that's just the way it is. The last question is the most important question. Well, I mean, it's pretty important. There's a whole series there in the beginning of that where I butter up the prospect and let them know I'm on their team. I'm on their side with protecting their limited budget. I just presume that they're on a limited budget. Even if they're not on a limited budget, nobody likes to spend frivolously, especially on insurance. There's a lot of fun things you can blow your money on. Life insurance typically isn't one of them. So I want to gain their respect and appreciation that I know that you're on a fixed income and you get one check a month. And the worst thing you can do is waste that limited money. When I'm saying all this, I'm getting people say, yeah. They get excited, like he understands. And that's unusual to hear from a salesperson, right? Again, is a salesperson going to make these damaging omissions? No. He's going to pretend like, that they're not. They're not there. There's not that the limited income thing isn't a real issue or could potentially be a real issue. So I'd rather just throw up into it doesn't sound good. I'd rather just go out and talk about it so I can increase my level of trust. The other reason I say all this is because it sets me up to ask for a high premium. When I've gained the trust and rapport of a client and tell them that you shouldn't spend more than you do, and then I turn around and ask them for 150 to 200 a month or 80 to 100, I don't lose as much credibility than if I did not say the first part. Like if I just said, if I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford 150 to 200 a month? I'm afraid that I might be potentially damaging my credibility with somebody on a fixed income. So I would rather address it, let them know I'm on their side, which gives me permission to go high. And then I'll reply and say, hey, that's fine. Like I said, I understand you're on a fixed income. If I can find you something else in the 100 to 125 range, would you be able to afford that today? So you just pivot and go down. This has never been a problem for me. People are very receptive to the question once they know that you're on their side. The last thing I'll mention is you have to ask, if I can qualify you for a program today, can you afford 150 to 200 a month? The key word is today. Some people, it's rare, but it's worth adding in today to prevent it from happening. When you put in, can you afford a plan today, it eliminates those people who say, yeah, I can afford 150 a month. Just give me 6 months so I can pay off my car. And it's like, well, you can't afford it today. You're hoping you will, but hope isn't a strategy. All right. It's you need to know for a fact that this is something you can do. Other things you'll hear when you ask that question are, I think I can afford 150 a month. Well, I think I can afford expresses doubt. It may manifest in ways such as, I'm pretty sure I can do that. Yeah, maybe I can do that. It sounds as if there's not 100% buy-in. For me, my strategy is to say, hey, look, it sounds like you're not 100% sure that 125 or 150 a month is affordable. So why don't we do this? What if we can find you a similar program and it was priced between 100 and 125 a month? Would that fit your budget today? I want to hear them confirm with enthusiasm and confidence, yes, yeah, that'll work. And they'll say it like that, just kind of direct, pointed, over and done with. Yeah, that's good. Now you've got them, right? Boy, it's already 10 o'clock, man. Whew. Mauro, let me answer a question before we wrap this up. What do you think about this? After you ask about cancer, heart, stroke, asking if anyone in their immediate family has ever had cancer, so you can insert that language if you're doing a fact finder approach to cross-sell something other than final expense. I traditionally don't teach it for no other reason than I'm like a laser focused type of agent when I train agents. So what's the outcome of all this training here today, guys? If you execute exactly on what I've taught today and what everybody has participated, thank you very much, everybody who willingly participated. If you execute just like this every single time, and you can do it within a 10-minute period of time, you will find yourself in front of more qualified prospects, and you will end sales calls with all of the ones that aren't going to go anywhere and have a low odds of going. It's worth mentioning here, an unqualified suspect is what? It's when somebody doesn't meet the criteria of buying, even if it's just one thing. If they have need, want, bank account, health, but no budget, they're not a client, okay? Likewise, if they don't have a bank account, but they're in love with this insurance, well, if you can't draft them and they don't have a direct express card, it's a waste of time, unless they can pull money out of their bra and hand it to you like I had one time. So that's a little different. But you can see if you use this objective criteria, you think need, want, bank, health, budget, and you get positive answers, all that means you're into step 3, where you begin to build value in the product. If you get a no to any of those 5, then you know it's done. You have permission to leave. It doesn't mean you couldn't make the sale. It just means that the vast majority of the time you won't. And again, when you have enough activity, when you're super busy, you will find that you want to spend more time with more prospects that are qualified, because your time becomes a limiting factor in order to scale. So that's the theory here. Hopefully it's the applied practice. If I can help with anything else, y'all, please let me know. I'm going to end this call and then put the recording up here probably a couple hours after I get back from the afternoon appointment. And thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Hope you learned something. See you. Bye.